Welcome to Becoming Powerhouse, where we discuss the tough lessons I've learned while taking my two companies from negative revenue to over 7 figures. We'll talk about the raw and vulnerable truths about being boss, as well as tips and strategies you can implement immediately for better business results. I'm your host, Nicholle Overcame, the founder and CEO of Wilcox Financial Group and Powerhouse Coaching. You can see links and other resources in our notes. Don't forget to head over to herhousemoney.com to grab your free Her bundle for business and subscribe to our newsletter. Now, let's dive in to today's episode. If you want to know how play can make you more profitable, this episode is for you. I even found myself taking notes mid-interview because everything that this guest had to share was that good. Please enjoy the conversation that I had with Kristi Herold. Kristi is the founder and CEO of Jam, a multi-million-dollar global business that has connected millions of people through play since its inception. And it's one of the largest adult recreational sports leagues in the world. The Jam team has produced and delivered over 4,000 playful corporate events in over 30 countries since 2020. The team consults with organizations, helping them integrate fun and play into their workplace culture. Jam has been awarded Canada's Most Admired Culture Award and certified as Great Places to Work Canada multiple times. She's also the best-selling author of It Pays to Play, How Play Improves Business Culture. And it's an incredible resource that you're going to want to get your hands on. So tune in and enjoy my chat with Kristi. All right, Powerhouse fam. So we have Kristi Herold here today, and she gets to do play for work and teach everybody else how to have a lot of fun. And so, Kristi, I don't know how you got into this and how you discovered making this into a business model, because I think you've had a couple of changes along the way, if I read your journey correctly there. But how did you discover that bringing play to the workplace could be a really profitable, successful company?
So thanks, Nicholle, for having me. I will say, I don't think I ever intended or knew that it would become what it has. So back in 1996, I was new to the city of Toronto. I'm from a small city north of Toronto called Sudbury. And I'd grown up in Sudbury. I'd gone to university for 4 years in Kingston, Ontario, and then I'd moved to Toronto. So now I'm sort of this small town girl living in the big city, looking to meet new people. I knew I always wanted to run my own business. I had run all sorts of businesses through high school and in university. So I knew I wanted to run my own business. My dad was an entrepreneur, but I didn't know exactly what. And because I was sort of struggling to meet new people in Toronto, and I was like, maybe I could sign up to play, in a soccer league or something and meet people like that. And anything I found were competitive women's leagues. And I had played some soccer as a little kid, but I wasn't a super competitive soccer player. I was a good athlete, but not a super competitive soccer player. And I was like, well, that's kind of out of my league. Like, I can't play that level. And then I'd heard about these recreational adult social sports leagues in the United States. I'd heard about one in Chicago, and I'd heard about another one in San Francisco. And I thought, well, I could try that in Toronto, make a little business for myself, running adult recreational sports leagues. So in 1996, I started what was initially called the Toronto Sport and Social Club. And that very first year, I had about 250 teams signed up to play soccer, ultimate frisbee, flag football, basketball, and beach volleyball. And it was a start. It was a slow start, and it started to sort of grow. And I knew I really wanted a lifestyle business for the first 20 years of running Sport and Social Club. I had 3 children during that period of time, and I just sort of grew the business very organically because I didn't want to be traveling. I didn't want to. I wanted a nice lifestyle business, impacting. I was passionate about what I was doing, but I didn't have these big dreams to grow it. And so I had built a great team. They were making things happen. And so now it's 2016, and the business has grown significantly by this point in time. So we probably had, that first year of 250 teams, call it 2,500 people, we'd probably grown to having, I don't know, maybe 50, 60,000 people playing every year by 2016. And now I'm really bored. My kids didn't need me around as much. They were like, they'd grown up. They were 18, 16, 14. They didn't want me coming on field trips. They didn't, and I'm bored because my business is running very smoothly. And so now what? So I'm thinking I should sell the business. And then I was like, but I love what I do. I like connecting people through play. I feel good when I see people out playing soccer or softball because of what we do. It felt good. So then I thought maybe I should chase a new vision. And I wrote down the number 1 million people playing. That became the new goal. And my team were like, well, how are we going to do that? And I said, I don't know yet, but we'll figure that out. So that became the new big, the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal. And so I looked at organic growth was going to be very slow. Franchising would be clunky and also very slow. And there were already a lot of sport leagues in every city around North America. So to franchise just seemed, it just seemed like it wouldn't be a good strategy. And I'd heard about mergers and acquisitions and doing a roll up, and I didn't really know what that meant. I studied business in university, but I didn't pay very much attention in class. So I didn't know what it meant to do a merger or an acquisition. So I spent a year, the year of 2016, talking to a lot of people much smarter than me who taught me what a roll-up strategy is and what that would look like. So I started the next year, 2017, started doing acquisitions. So between 2017 and 2019, we did 9 acquisitions of other sports leagues in different cities, expanded our footprint. At the beginning of 2020, we had 2 acquisitions, 2 more in the works that would have doubled the size of our organization that year. And March of 2020, we remember this little thing called COVID came around. And when you run a business that connects people in the playing in real life, that COVID wasn't very good for that business. So the mandates in Canada, which is now where probably 90% of our business was at the time, we're bigger in the US now, but at that point in time, we were really 90%. We were only in Michigan at that point. So the mandates were very harsh in Canada. We lost 18 months of revenue that year. And in order to survive the pandemic, we should have been celebrating 25 years of connecting people through play. And instead, we're trying to keep ourselves from going bankrupt. So we decided we had to pivot, and we wanted to stay true to our core purpose, connecting people through play. And so we had to do it differently. And so we started offering virtual events, things like bingo, trivia, scavenger hunts, game shows, to corporate teams. And we ended up doing over $1 million in revenue in our first year, producing corporate events, virtual team building events for companies all around the world. And then when the pandemic mandates started to lift and people were sort of not, we could actually do more than just virtual, we grew our Jam corporate, the business, into doing more than just virtual and doing in-person events. So we do amazing races and scavenger hunts, field days, office Olympics, all sorts of different in-person corporate events, as well as virtual. And we also rebranded our organization during the pandemic to being called Jam instead of the Sport and Social Club, because it was so it became Jam Sports and Jam Corporate. It just was better with the different types of verticals we had. And then I wrote a book during the pandemic called It Pays to Play, How Play Improves Business Culture. And I've started doing more keynote speaking on play and how to integrate playfulness into the workplace. And then post-pandemic, we've done 3 more acquisitions of sports leagues. So we're now in 25 different cities. We will probably have 200,000 people that will be playing with us this year in 25 different cities across Canada and the US. Atlanta is the most recent acquisition. So we're sort of spreading, and we've got a great team in place, connecting people through the playing of sports and helping companies profit by playing with their teams is sort of how we frame what we do at Jam. So long version, but there you go. That's the story of where we're at.
Yeah, That's incredible. And I think it speaks to, I was just at this event a couple days ago. Actually, it was called Show Her the Money. It was a movie premiere talking about venture capital and getting more money into the hands of women founders specifically. And one of the themes they were talking about and why this team was so gung ho on investing in female founders is because we're better CEOs. And they brought up 2020 and said, of all the CEOs, it was the women who didn't struggle as much. They were more resilient. They were statistically, they stayed in business. They didn't go out of business and just came up with a different solution. And so it speaks exactly to what you did during that period of time. And I mean, I don't know about you, but for a couple of months in the beginning of like that time, I was, for a lack of better terms, like shitting my pants. Like, are we going to be able to make payroll? What is this going to look like? Am I going to have to get a line of credit? And it ended up being for us our best year yet, but that was fourth quarter. I lost all my hair in the second quarter and just from stress. And so it was just this wild, incredible time. But like we were like digging in and saying like, just what can we do better? How can we be available? How can we make a positive impact? Like, that's just what I kept saying. And so I'd love to know during that time where I can imagine it was also great stress because it sounds like I don't know if you were doing your acquisitions all cash or you had more debt than typical because of that growth phase, but you were also probably at that point of like, holy shit, what am I going to do? How am I going to save this? So I would love to know, Kristi, if you could share in going through that time, maybe some of the biggest lessons that you learned, but really what allowed you to get through that and come out on the other side with this bigger, better company, really. I'd love to know because there's probably so many women now. And as we're heading into another economic, what feels like tightening time, and when we're starting to hear some businesses struggling again, like it would really be great to have those experiences and tools.
Sure. Yeah. So I think it was a pretty traumatic time for me.
Yeah.
It was it actually, I get pretty emotional thinking about it. It was really a very scary time. As I said, I should have been celebrating our 25-year anniversary. At that point in time, I think I had about 45 full-time employees, and I had to call them from Mexico on March 13th and basically lay everybody off by video call and tell them like, you're on a temporary layoff until we can figure out what's going on here because we don't know. Canada did have some, they put some stuff in place to help with subsidies and stuff, wage subsidies and such. But I mean, we all took a hit. It was hard. It was a real grind because we went from, an 8-figure revenue business to zero overnight. Like doors were shut down and we didn't know, is this going to be 2 weeks? Is this going to be a month? We didn't know it was going to be 18 months, 18 months that we could not play sports. Because even and there were some startups and some shutdowns and some startups and shutdowns again. But like January of 2022, we could not run sports leagues. Like that's how long this went on for us. So it was awful. It was really awful.
Canada was worse than the US. I think people forget about that.
Ontario in particular, the main province where we operate, was really bad, like crazy harsh mandates. I mean, my colleagues in the sport and social industry in the United States lost 2 or 3 months of revenue. Like my friends in Texas and Florida, like they lost a few months. It was, and even our Michigan operations they were hit a little bit, but not that bad. But it was a small piece of our bigger pie. So it was crushing for us. And it was a lot of just not knowing, start, like not knowing what are we allowed to do, what can't we do. And it was frustrating at the time because the rules were, kids can practice playing sports, but adults can't play sports. And I was like, wait, you could practice, but you can't play? What? Come on. And so they were doing things like they could have 10-person hockey practices, but I couldn't have a curling league where 4 adults would play curling against each other, where they could literally be wearing masks and stay socially distanced. Like that wasn't allowed. It was just, so it was a really crazy frustrating
time. Of zero logic.
Yeah. And so I would say that like March, April, May, very, very dark time. Thank goodness my children were all in their sort of late teens, early 20s. They were incredibly supportive. They were like, Mom, let us go get groceries. Mom will make dinner. Like they could see their mom going through. It was hard,
Yeah.
dark, and my
Yeah.
husband was really supportive at the time. He runs his own business as well, but his business was not impacted at all. Similarly to, like, they had a great year, so he was in the TV production business. Anyways,
Oh, wow.
um,
Yeah.
so dark time, and then I was like, guys, we have to figure something out here. Like we've got to
Mhm.
try something. And I
Yeah.
remember one of my staff kind of laughing at me. He was like, "You want us to sell bingo to Google?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And he's like, "What? Like, this is
Yeah.
crazy." I'm like, "I know, but we have to try." Like, we had to, so I had people trying all different things to try and get through. And the
Mhm.
virtual events started to work. And we realized, wow, we're really making an impact here. Like, people are liking this. And it sort of gave us something to focus on. Now,
Mhm.
we lost money 3 years in a row. We'd never lost money. 25 years of
Yeah.
profitability, and then we had 3 years of losses. Like it was because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But the virtual events business helped cover some of the costs. It helped
Okay.
keep the doors open, right? And
Yeah.
so it really helped us get through. And then I was like, well, actually, this is kind of a nice business. Like this is
Yeah.
fun, and it's also connecting people through play, and it's just different. And we've been a B2C business for 25 years. Now we can have this B2B business that actually has no boundaries because we're doing virtual. We were producing events in Thailand and in Australia, and then when we morphed into in person, we're doing, we've done in-person events in Atlanta, in New Jersey, in Idaho, Vancouver, Toronto, like all over the
Mhm.
place. We've built this business, which never would have happened had it not been for the pandemic. And then as I was watching all of these corporate team building, hearing from clients
Yeah.
how impactful it was, how much fun it was, how meaningful it was, having some laughs with our team. Like we have a laughter guarantee, so it's like you're gonna have laughs or we give you your money back. And we've never had to give anyone money back. They all have laughs, and I just love that that's what we
Mhm.
get to do. And people say, we're hearing these stories about our team had so much fun playing together that when we went into our meeting the next day, it was like we were friends versus. And I'm like, yes, that is what it means to have a playful
Mhm.
workplace culture, which we'd always have had at Jam. I've always
Mhm.
invested heavily
Yeah.
and believe strongly in having a fun workplace culture. Um, and I can touch on, actually, that was an interesting point about the pandemic. I kind of shut culture down during the pandemic. I became
Okay.
this, like, I was trying to keep from sinking, and so it
Sure.
became, we need to survive. Like fun just got canceled. We're not having fun here
Yeah.
anymore. How are we surviving? And so things like, as an example, when you hit your 1 year mark at Jam, you get officially drafted to the team as a veteran, and you get your veterans jersey, and it's a hockey jersey, and Jam is on the front, and on the back is your number and your name, and your number is the year you started with us. So
Oh,
people
cool.
really value these jerseys that they get. And so during the pandemic, I was like, we're not buying jerseys for people. Like that's done. We're not doing that anymore. And
Mhm.
we do a core value award every month where we celebrate our core values with people nominate their peers, and I read through this presentation of all the shout outs that people got, all the nominations, and somebody wins the core value award. It actually costs nothing. Like we own the trophy.
Yeah.
It costs nothing. It's just time. But I was like, we don't have time for core value awards. Like we're not doing, so
Oh,
those are all we used to do.
yeah.
We do a book club every 2 months. I canceled book club. It was just like survival mode,
Yep.
survival, survival, survival. So for 6 months, all the kind of fun had been canceled, and we started to see people quitting.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, this is not really a fun place to work anymore. Like it
Yeah.
used to be a really fun place to work, and it kind of sucks now. And so I realized, like, we've got to actually get culture back. And
Mhm.
that was probably one of the biggest lessons I'd say I learned during the pandemic. And that's what inspired me to write the book. And in the book, I talk about, I mean, I've now done a lot of research
Yeah.
into playful workplace cultures and fun workplace cultures and what that does for the bottom line of the business.
Mhm.
And retention is a huge aspect of this. Like turnover,
Yeah.
if employees in a company, if they have a close friend at work, if over 60% of your employees answer yes, your company is likely to be 12% more profitable. If less than 60% answer yes, like your profitability goes down. Like they've done studies. And how do you foster friendships? You have fun together, you play together, you do some fun things together. And it's not necessarily about stopping to go play volleyball or stopping to do a jam event. It's about integrating those playful events and having fun with the way you do your work every day. So we have so many, like the veterans jersey, right? The core value awards.
Such a cool idea. I love that.
Playful ways.
Yeah.
And we do, I mean, I could go on for days. We have a mayor in our office. We do the book club. We have a shout out channel in our Microsoft Teams chat, celebrating great things being done every day. We have a lunch and laugh every Wednesday. It's whoever wants to join on the lunch and laugh. You just, no work talk is allowed. It's half an hour. Grab your lunch, get on a Zoom call with all your teammates. Honestly, I could go on forever and ever. We have a house system at Jam. So like Harry Potter, when you join the Jam team, you're onboarding the day you come in. We have a high five welcome. Everyone's standing there to greet you, and then we do a quick 3 questions, and everyone gets to know this person very quickly. They feel warm and fuzzy because they just had this fun welcoming versus like, here's your desk, fill in the paperwork. Like it's a really memorable welcome. And when they arrive and we're high fiving them, all the rookies are wearing their Jam rookie hoodie, and veterans are all wearing their hockey jerseys. So it's like they walk in this tunnel of people. And then after the onboarding, they're drafted to a house. So we have 4 houses like the Harry Potter, and they're put on a house team. And those house teams, we have these social competitions, and you earn points for your house. And so again, we're not stopping the work we do. It's about having fun with the way we do our work. Every meeting we have, if you have 4 or more people in a meeting, you press play to start. And what that means is it's just a 3-minute playful interaction at the beginning of your meeting. We have a dodgeball that sits on the boardroom table, and if it's your turn to talk, you're holding the dodgeball. You throw the dodgeball. It's a playful reminder. Don't hold on to the dodgeball too long. Don't take too much air out of the room. Say your piece and then pass it on. And don't interrupt. If you're not holding the dodgeball, it's not your turn to speak. So it's just a playful physical reminder. So again, like I could go on for days about all these little ways to integrate and have play. And so that was what began the idea of, I'm hearing from my clients how much fun they're having with the event. I've seen it myself. I've had 3 employees quit during the pandemic. And then you know what? They came back. 3 different employees left and came back. They left for more money and career opportunity. They came back for culture because they realized they're working in this place where they might be earning more money, but they're miserable working with people they don't care about. And so I was like, I have a lot of stories to share of my clients, of our own experiences, and studies that have been back up the fact that having a playful workplace culture is powerful. So that's why I wrote the book about all of that as well.
That's so great. And I was going to ask, like, okay, so all these things and ideas are in your book, right? Like where listeners can find it, and it's the playbook for play in the workplace.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So there's 2 things that. Oh, sorry, I've got a dinging going off here, and I'm not sure why that is. That's annoying.
It's okay. I didn't know, honestly, if it was me or you, but it's you. So
it is me. I apologize. I thought I had all
it's all good. It happens.
So yeah, in the book, I list at the back, there's an appendix, and it lists all sorts of ways to connect through play, whether you're a virtual organization, hybrid, or you're in person, all sorts of ways to have playful interactions. And we do consult on this as well. So if people are looking for, they want to do a sit down and get some help, like how can we get started? And it's really just about intentionality and just getting started. Once you get going, you kind of it's not about having all of this all at once. You sort of start with one and layer in something else, and it starts to morph, and it's a mindset of let's have some laughs and let's have some fun with the work we do, because life's too short to not enjoy the time we're spending at work every day. And when you take some time to foster friendships inside your organization, it really pays off, because all of a sudden your teammates care about each other as friends. And so then when they're like, you seem stressed, do you need help? Yeah. Versus if I'm not friends with that person, I'm going to be like, she seems stressed, I'm out of here. Right? And so what's better for the business? And so that's why I'm a big believer in fostering friendships and teamwork, and that all happens. And then for your listeners, I actually have a link, Nicholle. It's kristiherold.com/powerhouse25. at that link is a 10-page, if people don't want to buy my book, but they would like some ideas, it's a 10-page PDF called 10 Ways to Integrate Play into the Playbooks, into your workplace. So it's tactics and ideas on how to do some of these things. It's a little step-by-step guide. And inside the Playbook PDF, that document is a 25% savings. If anyone wants to try a corporate event, that's in there. We'd be happy to do a corporate event for them, a jam team building event with a 25% savings for your listeners. So that you can share that in your...
Yeah. No, that's great. And you guys, we will have that in the show notes as well. And I will say our local EO chapter entrepreneurs organization, those of you who have been listening for a while know I've been part of that group and just love it. And we had Kristi come and facilitate one of our learning events, and everybody who attended from our EO chapter just raved about it. And some of the things that you were seeing too, as you're saying these ideas, I'm taking notes. I want to get your book in that, because to me, culture is so important. And I like to think that here, and especially at my financial planning firm, we're like family, we're close knit, we're a small and mighty crew and constantly talking. But when it comes to planning fun things or having fun, initially I get overwhelmed and I'm like, oh, that sounds like too much work to even think about it. Right. And then we forget the impact of fun and having fun and laughing and engaging in those relationships. And when you said the statistic about having a close friend at the workplace, that is so important. And because to me too, where my mind went is like, wow, that makes so much sense, because I think I can't be alone in this, is that so many adults, especially, that wonky phase of like 30s, 40s, when you may feel very isolated depending on where your friend group is versus you, meaning, do you have kids, not kids, where is everybody on their frequency? And I find myself feeling so incredibly lonely in a world where we've never been more connected. I'm having conversations every day, but I am lonely. And so, and I consider our COO, Sarah, like one of my closest friends, and I couldn't do work without her. I consider, our office manager like a little sister. And so, but to add that component is huge. And I think it's so important to talk about. And I'd love for you to say the statistic about the retention rates, because what I hear, every single one of my clients that owns a business, friend, all of our colleagues in EO, like everybody is like, my number one pain point is recruiting, retention. Like, we need quality people.
Every time you lose an employee, it's going to cost you, it's like 50 to 150% of that person's salary. So let's say you're paying someone $80,000. It's going to cost you $40,000 to $120,000 every time you lose someone. So you don't want to lose that person. And the reason it costs you that is because it takes time. So they've left, and now other people have to handle their workload, which is creating stress for the rest of your team, right? They're having to pick up the pieces, so they're not happy. They're getting burnt out as they're doing that. You're now spinning your wheels, trying to recruit, hire, train, onboard new people, and that takes time, and it's costly. And so that's the stats on how much it costs. So imagine, I use an example in my keynote. Imagine you've got a team of 100 people and you lose, average turnover is sort of 15 to 18% across industries. So let's say, I'm having trouble with the math and the numbers on my top of my head right now, but let's say, you're spending, if it's $1 million payroll, you're spending $150,000 on turnover. Well, what if you spent $50,000 on investing in a fun workplace culture and having 3 really fun team building events every year, and having some sports teams that your staff get to play on every week if they want to opt in, and having a book club that doesn't need to cost you anything except paying for the books, and doing some of these fun social things that can sort of integrate into your day to day. You do a few of these things, you layer in, you make your culture better. People start to integrate and become better friends with each other, your turnover goes down. And so you end up saving money by investing and having some fun. Like that's the reality.
That's the wild thing is like it really does, it saves so much money, and I see it too as like an alleviation of stress in a place, in a world that feels so heavy lately. I think that's what I have found too. And I'll just share this real quick. Like we my husband and I just recently started playing pickleball. And I have also been very stressed lately, and working when I come home, and he'll come home and be like, just let's real quick, let's do a 20-minute game. Like, let's go play. You can go back to work, and I got to tell you, like, he pulls me out of that, and I'm a different person when I come back, and it's helped our relationship so much because it is so much fun. And I think as adults, we forget the value of play, whether at home, workplace, anywhere. And when you think play in the workplace, many of us probably are like, oh, that's for those Silicon Valley teams, it's not for us. And so I love the work that you're doing and the value that we forget it brings. And so I hope everyone, listening to this, regardless of the size of your team, that you really start thinking about how you can start small. I know I've been like, I'm going to do some of those things right now. Actually, we're not as fun as I think we are. So so I think that's so awesome. And thank you for the free Powerhouse 25. I love that. We will share that. We're also going to share that on our social media, you guys. I think it's so cool. I'll talk about that later today, so you guys can grab that. In Kristi. So I have no idea when this will actually go live, but it'll be in the show notes. I'll share it on social for, the month of September. But, before we end, is there any message for the women founders listening that you would want to leave them with on their journey?
Oh my goodness. A general message.
Or anything.
I
think no pressure.
I think that I'm just a big believer. Like you, I just started playing pickleball in our own leagues. I haven't been able to play in my own leagues for 20 years just because I keep getting injured. I used to play a lot of ultimate frisbee. I couldn't play ultimate anymore, but I'm now really into pickleball, and we offer pickleball. So I just recruited 20 of my friends, and we're all playing in jam pickleball leagues now, and it's so much fun. Cool. It really does. Taking some play breaks, whether it's to play guitar or play the piano, to play, like you can have a company rock band together. That's playing music together. It's not necessarily about playing sports or playing a virtual event. Like there's just so many ways of playing together, right? And it's just taking that intentionality, making some time for that is just incredibly powerful. And there's a what was this? There's a saying, it was Plato who said this, I think like 2,500 years ago. You learn more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation.
That's wild.
And so, it's just, if Plato said that 2,500 years ago, I don't know. I think there's something to this. Like we're never too old to keep playing. And George Bernard Shaw says, we don't grow old because we stop playing. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. So I think the message I'd encourage everyone to remember is keep playing. Find ways to keep playing in your life, with your children, with your work colleagues. Have fun. Life's too short not to.
Yeah, have fun. I love it. That's perfect. Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. This was awesome. Until next time, my powerhouses, continue to be courageous.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to Becoming Powerhouse. You can find all of the links to our site and resources in the show notes. Let's connect on Instagram at PowHerHouseMoney, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at powerhousemoney.com. Remember, I want to connect with you. I want to hear your thoughts and help you with all the challenges you're having. So engage, send me a DM. And of course, if you're loving this podcast, let us know and go ahead and hit the subscribe button and leave a review.